What is up, everybody? It's your boy Big Boy Snatch on TV, aka Wakanda Snatch One, because I got playing around. As you can tell by the time of the thumbnail of the video, this is my WWE NXT review on highlights. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys please watch the entire video from all the way from the beginning all towards the end. Hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more wrestling content I do on the channel. Follow my social media down below in the description, and go check out my WWE Raw review on highlights that I did on the channel. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, WWE NXT was a god-awful show for what it was. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. It said, welcome to wrestling results for WWE NXT on March 24th, 2026, coming to you live from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. With NXT standing delivered right around the corner on April 4th, Miles Bourne will be finding out who will be challenging him for the North American Championship at the upcoming Premium Live event, as several undisclosed competitors take part in a #1 contenders gauntlet match. Miles Bourne's most recent televised defense of the North American Championship came on the March 3rd episode of NXT, when he retains against the former title holder Ethan Page. Former NXT champion Ricky Saints will be in action as he collides with former North American and tag team champion Tony D'Angelo. As crack, what's that? It says as crack begins to form in the alliance between Ricky Saints and the aforementioned Ethan Page, due to both men's interest in getting a shot at Joe Hendry's North American Championship. Joe Hendry appears to confront the duo. A brawl then broke out between all three men, with Tony D'Angelo suddenly appearing to lead them all laid out. The #1 contenders match for the tag team tournament will be continuing tonight to determine who will be the next challengers for the title, currently held by Vanity Project, as Shawn Spears and Nico Vance of the Colin squares off with Eli Knight and reigning Speed champion Elo Lefleur. Not only did Bright Your Connors and Heritage Cup champion Channing Sachs Lorenzo advanced to the tournament last Tuesday, when they emerged victorious against Hank Walker and Tank Lager, but Eli Knight stepped in for Shawn Legacy as Lefleur tag's team partner last Tuesday, when Legacy revealed he was unable to compete due to an injury. Wynn Sinclair dethroned Fallon Henley as Women's Speed Champion last Tuesday to win her first ever title in WWE tonight. Fallon Henley looks to seek some retribution as she teams up with her veteran-influenced stablemate Lanny Reed to take on Wynn Sinclair and her Wynn Sinclair and her Corner Catch Crew stablemate Kendall Gray in a tag team competition. Keilani Jordan and Thea Hill will be returning to action as they go one-on-one with each other. Both women will surely be motivated to score a win tonight, coming off recent losses, with Keilani Jordan coming up short to Lola Rice in a NXT Underground match at NXT Ventures Day on March 7th, and Thea Hill being unable to emerge victorious against the aforementioned Wynn Sinclair in the finals of a Women's Speed Championship #1 contenders tournament on March 10th episode of NXT. We are live. Vic Joseph and Booker T greet audience at home before throwing it to a video recapping some of the events from last Tuesday's show. Alright. We then head backstage. Yeah, it says we then head backstage where Charlotte Hill asked Robert Stone to go first in the North American Championship #1 contenders gauntlet match. Taylor Paxley interrupts and asks Robert Stone where's Blake Monroe, as is after taking her Women's North American Championship, but Charlotte Hill offers to help her find Blake Monroe. Josh Briggs then approaches to Robert Stone looking to talk to him, but a referee pulls Robert Stone away from something that needs his attention. Back at ringside, Win Sinclair makes their way to the ring. Fatal Influence follows. So we get the Fatal Influence accompanied by Jesse Jane versus Win Sinclair and Kendall Gray. And this tag team match right here, I ain't even gonna lie to you. This tag team match, it was just an solid. This was a solid tag team match. Fallon Henley and Win Sinclair began the action. The bell rings and Fallon Henley looks to blindside Win Sinclair. Win Sinclair moves out of the way, but Fallon Henley jams her knee into Win Sinclair's throat and gets her up. Win Sinclair escapes and rolls up Fallon Henley, but Fallon Henley kicks out and whips Win Sinclair into the ropes. Fallon Henley rocks Win Sinclair with a forearm, then whips her into the corner and lands a back elbow on her. Langley Reed tags in and lands a right hand on Win Sinclair, then goes for a pin, but Win Sinclair kicks out. Kendall Gray tags in and Win Sinclair delivers a double stomp to Langley Reed. Langley Reed wears down Kendall Gray with a submission hold, as we see Robert Stone and the referee finding Elo Lee Flair and Eli Knight badly attacked backstage. Langley Reed pins Win Sinclair during the commercial break, but Win Sinclair kicks out. Fallon Henley tags back in and wears down Win Sinclair with a submission of her own. Then flies off elbows on Win Sinclair and wears her down with another submission. Langley Reed tags back in from the break and lands a right hand on Win Sinclair. Fallon Henley delivers a German suplex to her off the middle rope, but Fallon Henley and Kendall Gray tag in. Kendall Gray levels Fallon Henley with a pair of back elbows and a suplex to end interfering Langley Reed. Then catches Fallon Henley with a suplex and a DDT. Langley Reed tags back in and pins Kendall Gray, but Win Sinclair breaks the fall and levels Fallon Henley with a clothesline on the outside. Kendall Gray intercepts Langley Reed with a back elbow in the ring and looks to cinch in an armbar on Langley Reed. Langley Reed takes a grip to prevent Kendall Gray from locking in a submission hold, but Kendall Gray managed to do so. Fallon Henley looks to break the hold, but Win Sinclair cinches in a reverse chicken wing on Fallon Henley and Langley Reed taps out. The winner of the match, Win Sinclair and Kendall Gray. And this was a solid tag team match. What it was. After the match, Kendall Gray grabs a microphone and says Win Sinclair dethroned Fallon Henley as Women's Speed Championship last week, while she made Langley Reed tap out tonight. She put Jesse Jane on notice and says she wants to challenge Jesse Jane for the NXT Women's Championship at NXT Standard Delivery. Lola Vice's music hits and she calls her shots for an NXT Championship match on April 4th, promoting Robert Stone to make a NXT Women's Championship #1 contenders match between Kendall Gray and Lola Vice, official for next Tuesday. How many times we gotta see Lola Vice versus Jesse Jane? This is a rinse and repeat right here. But and shout out to my boy Cypher. They are planting seeds of Fallon Henley is going to turn on Jesse Jane at NXT Standard Delivery, and that's all I gotta say. Saruka makes her way to the ring. So Saruka confronts Zarya. In this segment right here, this was a okay segment for what it was. Saruka says she's been going back and forth trying to figure out what she was going to say tonight. She says part of her didn't want to say anything because she sees what Zarya has said about her on social media. Then says she would be lying if she said she didn't expect something like this to happen between them. She says she trusts Zarya as a best friend. Then says she fought for her when no one else would, and say she made sure Zarya's name made something. She says herself and Zarya were were a team. Then says all she wanted was to pull Zarya forward and split all her opportunities because she believed that they were better together. Okay. Saruka says she wanted Zarya to shine as much as she did and remind Zarya of the sacrifice she made of her. She recalls Zarya losing her Women's North American Championship for her and making sure Zarya was on Raw and SmackDown with her when they called. They then said while she fought for them, Zarya was waiting for an opportunity to make everything about her. She says she sees Zarya hears her and knows who she is before challenging her to prove herself in a match at Stand and Deliver. Zarya music hits and she makes her way out. She says all she wants was them as a team, but she was always second to Saruka and says when she speared Saruka, she took back everything Saruka took from her. She says Saruka knows how she feels when she was unable to win the NXT Women's Championship. Then says Saruka was never going to share everything and says she chose a title over her. She asks Saruka if she knows what that does to someone. Then says she stood beside the person who has everything they want while thinking she was giving her something by being close to the Women's North American Championship. She says she hated that feeling, and while Saruka thinks she doesn't care about her, she cries. She says she cries enough to realize that as long as Saruka is standing, she won't be. She says this isn't about Saruka, but choosing herself. Saruka asks Zarya how she's the villain in her story. Then says she's threatened. She treated their team as if it was a transitional relationship. She says Zarya is too insecure to stand beside her, but Zarya tells Saruka she has everything wrong. She says Saruka isn't the villain in her story, but her mistake. We then head over to a conversation in the men's locker room between Ricky Saints and Ethan Page about who gets the next NXT Championship shot. Josh Rich tells them both to stop complaining because he can't even get 5 minutes with the boss, and leaves before Joe Hendry enters and tells Ricky Saints to deal with Tony D'Angelo unless he wants Tony D'Angelo to challenge him for the NXT Championship at NXT Stand and Deliver. Back at ringside, Keilani Jordan makes her way out. Thea Hell follows. Alright, so we get Keilani Jordan versus Thea Hell. This was a squash match, what it was. The bell rings and Keilani Jordan rocks Thea Hell with their right hand. Thea Hell lands a Luther press on Keilani Jordan and rains down right hands on her. But Keilani Jordan delivers a suplex to Thea Hell and looks to send her crashing into the turnbuckle face first. Thea Hell stops the momentum and sends Keilani Jordan crashing into the turnbuckle's face first, repeatedly, then cinches in a Kimura lock on Keilani Jordan. Keilani Jordan escapes, but Thea Hell cinches the Kimura lock back in. Keilani Jordan escapes once again and lands a facebuster on Thea Hell, then connects with a split-legged moonsault on Thea Hell before she pins her for the win. The winner of the match, Keilani Jordan. This was a squash match for what it was. And let me take a sip of my water. Alright. After the match, Keelaney Jordan fires off kicks on Thea Hale and changes in an armbar submission on her. Jada Parker comes to Thea Hale's aid and lays a kick on her and then sends her crashing into the mat. Keelaney Jordan rolls out of the ring to escape Jada Parker's grabs. We then head backstage where Charlotte Hill tells Tano Pasty that she's figured out Blake Monroe's location besides on a post she made to her social media. Tano Pasty asks Charlotte Hill if it's weird to trash Blake Monroe's location, but Charlotte Hill says it's weird for Blake Monroe to post her life on social media. Back at ringside, Charlotte Hill makes his way out. Vanity Project follows. So we get a gauntlet match. Charlotte Hill versus Jackson Drake, accompanied by Vanity Project, versus Dion Lennox versus Charlie Dempsey versus Bright Wright versus Johnny Gargano, accompanied by Candice LeRae in the North American Championship number one contenders eliminator gauntlet match. And this match right here, I might as well say this was a fun match, what it was, but Johnny Gargano won. The bell rings and Charlotte Hill pins Jackson Drake. Jackson Drake kicks out and lands a boot on Charlotte Hill's midsection. But Charlotte Hill catches Jackson Drake with a DDT before Jackson Drake delivers a kick to Charlotte Hill's spine and fires off stomps on him. Jackson Drake connects with a Russian leg sweep on Charlotte Hill, but Charlotte Hill sends Jackson Drake crashing into the top rope on the mat face first. He sends Jackson Drake crashing into the mat with a spinning slam and lands a flip on Jackson Drake. With 3 minutes have passed, Dion Lennox enters the match next. He levels Jackson Drake with a clothesline and connects with a shoulder tackle on his midsection. Then delivers a shoulder to Charlotte Hill's midsection and follows it up with a suplex to Charlotte Hill. He connects with a spine buster on Jackson Drake and exchange right hands with Charlotte Hill in the middle of the ring during their commercial break. Charlotte Hill and Dion Lennox level one another with clotheslines, but Jackson Drake pins Dion Lennox. Dion Lennox kicks out, but Jackson Drake lands a shooting star press on Charlotte Hill and rains down right hands on Dion Lennox. Dion Lennox fires off right hands on Jackson Drake, but Jackson Drake levels Dion Lennox with the right hand of his own and jams his boot into Dion Lennox's throat. Up next in the match is Charlie Dempsey, and he makes his way to the ring alongside with Yura Connors, Shannon Stats, Lorenzo, and Ariana Grace. Charlie Dempsey wrenches back on Dion Lennox's spine, but Jackson Drake and Charlotte Hill join to lock in submission on one another. Okay, it says right here, Dion Lennox sends Charlie Dempsey's arm bouncing off the top rope to break the hold. We see Miles Bourne watching the action from backstage as Charlie Dempsey and Jackson Drake exchange right hands with one another. Dion Lennox sends Charlotte Hill crashing through one of the barricades. Candice LeRae makes her way to the ring and says she's tired. She tried everything to snap Johnny Gargano out of his funk on SmackDown. He says the one thing he hasn't tried is making him come back home to NXT, and Johnny Gargano makes his way out as the last entrance with a literal push from Candice LeRae. Johnny Gargano lays on the ring apron as Charlie Dempsey cinches in a submission on Dion Lennox. OTM blindsides Dion Lennox on the outside, and Bronco Nima delivers a curse on to Dion Lennox on the barricade, and that he had sent Charlotte Hill through as Leon Prince, Lewis Price holds Dion Lennox in place. Charlotte Hill then lands a neck breaker on Dion Lennox and sends him to the back. Dion Lennox has been eliminated. During another commercial break, Jackson Drake and Charlie Dempsey fires off stomps on Charlotte Hill as Candice LeRae as Candice LeRae and the live crowd try to get Johnny Gargano motivated. Charlie Dempsey lands an uppercut on Johnny Gargano, but Johnny Gargano lays on the barricade. Back in the ring, Charlotte Hill pins Justin Drake, but Justin Drake kicks out. Charlie Dempsey and Charlotte Hill lock in a double figure 8 leg lock on Justin Drake. Candice LeRae gets Johnny Gargano to get inside the ring as the live crowd gets Johnny Gargano fired up. As the crowd gets Johnny Gargano what was I? As Johnny Gargano gets fired. Candice LeRae gets Johnny Gargano to get inside the ring as the live crowd gets Johnny Gargano fired up, and Johnny Gargano repeatedly looks to get in the ring. Charlotte Hill levels Johnny Gargano with a strike and changes back in a double figure 8 lock on Justin Drake, but Justin Drake escapes and flies over the top rope to level Charlotte Hill and Charlie Dempsey on the outside. Back from the break, Justin Drake lands a 450 splash on Charlotte Hill and pins him. Charlotte Hill kicks out and takes out Justin Drake, then pins him to eliminate him. Justin Drake has been eliminated. Justin Drake has been eliminated. Charlotte Hill connects with a net break on Charlie Dempsey and pins him to send him to the back. Charlie Dempsey has been eliminated. Chen attacks and Connors pulls Charlotte Hill out of the ring and sends him crashing into the ring steps. Charlie Dempsey lands a German suplex on Charlotte Hill and dumps him back in the ring. Candice LeRae tells Johnny Gargano to pin Charlotte Hill, but he decides to push him in order for him to fall on top of Charlotte Hill and pins him to eliminate him. Charlotte Hill has been eliminated. The winner and your new number 1 contenders match for the NXT North American Champion Johnny Gargano. This was a fun match for what it was, but I was so glad to see Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae back on NXT. After the match, Blake Miles Bourne makes his way out and holds the North American Championship as he stares down Johnny Gargano. The caller then makes their way to the ring. Back from the break, we head to a video from TNA World Champion Mike Santana announcing he'll be on NXT next Tuesday in his hometown of New York City to compete in a 6-man tag team match that will pit himself in OTM against Dark State. Back at ringside, Los Americanos make their way to the ring, taking the place of Elio LeFleur and Eli Knight in the upcoming match. Okay, so we get the Colin versus the Los Americanos in a first round match for the number 1 contenders match for the NXT Tag Team Championship Tag Team Tournament. And this match right here, I ain't even gonna lie to you. This tag team match right here, I didn't really care about this tag team match. Shawn Spears and Bravo Americano begin the action. The bell rings and the two lock up. Bravo delivers a Hurricanrana to Shawn Spears and follows it up with a shotgun drop kick to him. Then tags in Ray Americanos. Nico Vince tags in on his side, but Bravo Americano tags back in, and Bravo Americano and Ray Americanos delivers a double drop kick to Nico Vince. Back from the break, Shawn Spears attempts to unmask Bravo as the two men teeter on the top rope. Bravo fights off Shawn Spears and delivers a crossbody to him off the top rope, but Nico Vince tags in. Bravo Americano delivers a drop kick and body slams to Nico Vince. They catches in interfering Shawn Spears with a airplane spin. But Nico Vince lands a knee on Bravo Americano and Shawn Spears then looks to land a splash on Bravo Americano off the top rope. Ray Americano pulls Bravo Americano out of the way and distracts the referee as Bravo Americano slides a piece of metal into the mask. Shawn Spears tags in and rocks Bravo Americano with a super kick. then sends Bravo Americano crashing into Reyes Americano to knock off Rayo Americano off the apron and delivers a C4 to Bravo Americano. He goes for a pin, but Bravo Americano kicks out as Rayo Americano slides a piece of metal into his own mask inside the ring. Shawn Spears rolls up Bravo Americano kicks out, and Rayo Americano catches Shawn Spears with a headbutt from outside the ring. This opens the door for Bravo Americano to send Nico Vance crashing off the apron with a headbutt and delivers a second headbutt to Shawn Spears, and he pins Shawn Spears for the win. The winner of the match, the Los Americanos. I did not really care about this tag team match. Back from the break, Blake Monroe gets a knock at her hotel room door, thinking that's room service. She answers, but on the other side of the door waits Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley warns Blake Monroe that she sees her next Tuesday. Back at ringside, Tony D'Angelo makes his way out. Ricky Saints and Ethan Page follows. So we get Ricky Saints accompanied by Ethan Page versus Tony D'Angelo. And this match right here, this was a squash main event match right here. This was squash. The bell rings and Tony D'Angelo looks to clinch in an arm, and the bell rings and Tony D'Angelo looks to clinches in an ankle lock on Ricky Saints. Ricky Saints used the top rope to grab onto and escape, but Tony D'Angelo scoops him up and sends him crashing into the mat. Ethan Page checks on Ricky Saints on the outside, but Tony D'Angelo charges at Ricky Saints and sets up for a belly-to-belly suplex. Ricky Saints lands on his feet and delivers a kick to D'Angelo under the bottom rope, then sends Tony D'Angelo crashing into the ring steps. Shoulder first, and hangs Ethan Page. Tony D'Angelo fires off a couple right hands on Ricky Saints back in the ring during the commercial break, but Ricky Saints catches Tony D'Angelo with a DDT, wearing him down with a submission hold. Back from the break, Ricky Saints catches Tony D'Angelo with a backbreaker and goes for a pin. Tony D'Angelo kicks out and runs the ropes, but Ethan Page tries to trip him. This opens the door for Ricky Saints to get up from the Revolution DDT, but Tony D'Angelo blocks Ricky Saints and lands a suplex on him. Ricky Saints then whips Tony D'Angelo into the corner, spine first, and lands a stomp on the back of his neck before he delivers a suplex and a spear to Ricky Saints. He levels Ethan Page on the ring apron with a right hand and gets Ricky Saints up, but Ethan Page delivers a chop block to Tony D'Angelo, costs the disqualification. The winner by disqualification, Tony D'Angelo. This was a squash main event match for what it was. After the match, Ethan Page and Ricky Saints rain down right hands on Tony D'Angelo. Joe Hendry runs down to the ring and trips Ricky Saints on the top rope, then delivers a fall-away slam to Ethan Page and clotheslines both him and Ricky Saints out of the ring. Joe Hendry momentarily stares down Tony D'Angelo, but catches him with a standing ovation as a reset up for Tony D'Angelo, leaving him laid out last Tuesday. On the outside, Ethan Page and Ricky Saints both grab the NXT Championship belt and refuse to release it as they stare each other down. And Joe Hendry shown, It says on the outside, Ethan Page and Ricky Saints grab the NXT Championship belt and refuse to release it as they stare each other down. And Joe Hendry and Tony D'Angelo look on from inside the ring. We then head backstage where Robert Stone informs Sarah that she's decided to make a fatal 4-way NXT Championship match between Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, Ethan Page, and Tony D'Angelo official for standard delivery. He announces all 4 men will sign the contract next week as the show goes off the air. Alright. let me give my honest opinion about thinking about WWE NXT. Now, WWE NXT was a god awful show for what it was, but the highlight of the night was Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano returning to NXT. But everything else was a god awful show for what it was. But anyway, if you guys enjoy my WWE NXT review on highlights, make sure you guys please give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below what you guys think of NXT. WWE NXT, because it was a god awful show for what it was. But the highlight of the night was Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano return to NXT, and that's all I gotta say. But the sad thing is, Monday Night Raw was way better than NXT. My live stream on Twitch and Showstopper TV's live stream on Twitch was way better than NXT tonight, and that's all I gotta say from here. But shout out to my boy Cypher. They are planting seeds for Fallen Henley to turn on Jesse Jane at NXT Stand and Deliver, and that's all I gotta say from here. But anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow for my AEW Dynamite review and highlights, and that's all I have to say. I want you guys to have a great night. Stay safe and always stay positive. Kept your crew, kept your kings, kept your club. Too sweet. I'm out of here, gang. Mwah. Bang. Too sweet, gang. And I'll see you guys on my world premiere for my WWE NXT review and highlights at around 5:30 a.m. on YouTube. So have a great night. Stay safe and always stay positive. Kept your crew, kept your kings, kept your club. Too sweet. I'm out of here, gang. Mwah. Bang. Too sweet, gang.